and welcome to another edition of the Throwing Bagels podcast. You thought you were going to wait 2 weeks before another podcast, right? You enjoyed the one with head coach Ed Gozick, and you're like, I can't wait for another one in 2 weeks. Well, you're wrong. There's another one right now.
That's right. Au contraire.
Kevin Mooney here alongside Chris Douglas and Jason Hamo. Hey, guys.
Hello. Long time no see.
That's right. And we are, much like the previous podcast, we are continuing to talk some hockey because there's no better time of year to do that. And it's our pleasure to welcome in our next guest on the Throwing Bagels podcast, entering his 4th season as head coach of the SUNY Oswego women's ice hockey team. Before that, he spent 9 years on the coaching staff of the men's ice hockey team at SUNY Oswego. It's our pleasure to welcome in Coach Mark Digby. Hey, Coach.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Before we get into this season, let's look at kind of a year in review. So last season ended with a loss to eventual conference champion Cortland in the first round of the SUNYAC playoffs. This year's team, you look, it features 12 seniors and grad students. There's also 7 first-year students, freshmen. So there's a kind of a balance. You know, there's some experience, there's some newcomers. What are your expectations when you look at this roster and you look at the schedule that's laid out for the 24-25 season?
Yeah, well, we're really excited. I mean, I think obviously the year got off to a great start with taking the returning players over to Italy for 10 days. That was quite a kickoff for our senior class, and for them to kind of culminate their college experience like that. I think that was a fun way to get it started. And as much as you're kind of living in the here and now, when you're going through something like that, you could actually watch like some of the team bonds come together. And it was really nice, getting to have that. And then, we talked a lot on the trip about, hey, when we get back, you're going to have, 10 new players coming in that we can't just keep talking about the trip over and over and being like those annoying vacationers that are talking about it in front of all their buddies. And it was pretty amazing, how quickly they were able to get the 10 new players acclimated just into like our everyday style that we have, and get them involved in some of the off-campus stuff that we do and the community service stuff that we do. And no, I've been really impressed with the group that we have. And when you have 7 new players, there's a lot of energy. It's and it's a fun 7. It's not like there's 7 quiet personalities sitting on the sidelines. They're pretty bubbly, pretty energetic, and I think they've really reinvigorated a lot of the older players. And it's almost freshman year 2.0 for the senior class, so they're really looking forward to it. And we've had some pretty good practices so far, so I'm excited to see what this group can accomplish.
How much of a challenge is it to incorporate like a younger players into a mature team, a senior laden team?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and we've talked a lot with our captains about that and just how to get them acclimated. And they keep laughing at me because I bring it up, and I bring it up a lot, even now. And they're just like, Coach, we're good, we got this. And I think a lot of it comes back to recruiting. And when you have good people, they want good people around them. They want other players that care. They want they want the holistic college hockey environment. They don't want to just show up to the rink and play, for an hour and a half and then leave and not see each other again until the next day. They want other players that they're going to be in the library with. They're going to be in the dining hall with. They're going to, go and, serve food at a volunteer thing tomorrow night together. Like those are the types of people that we've done our best to attract here. Mm-hmm. And now that, over the course of the last 5 years or 5 recruiting cycles anyway, being able to attract those players here, it's been pretty seamless, getting our new players involved. And, that's really a credit to our older players and the environment that they have bought into creating here.
So the tripping was only returning students. It seems like, did they play any games while they were over there?
Yeah, we just the returning players, just with the NCAA rules. That's how it works at our level. So only the players who were here last season that are returning this year were able to go. And we played in Biasca, Switzerland, against Ambri Piotta. And then the next night we actually played in Zurich, Switzerland, against the the Swiss League champs. They've won it like 8 years in a row. There was like 7 Olympians in the game. We were like, oh boy, we
Oh
better
man.
we better get the bus legs up pretty quick on this one, otherwise it could get ugly. But it was a really fun time, and I think it proved for the players of the level that they're able to play at. And we ended up we lost 1-0 the first night, and then the next night, when we went to Zurich, um, we lost 2-1. We gave up a goal with
Wow.
like 90 seconds left or something, then hit a post with the goalie pulled. And
Oh,
Wow.
Oh,
yeah, I hate to say it was kind of a continuation of last season, just with the 1 goal losses, but it was really fun to see us play the way that we did. And adjusting to the big ice was pretty entertaining for us, but I was very happy, especially with the second game, just the way we competed, the way we made plays, and the way you could just kind of hear the group cheering for each other and really pulling for each other. It was a lot of fun to be a part of.
that shows the ladies that they can hang with the big girls, and
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
almost losing only 2-1 to a champion team like the Swiss team.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. When we first saw the line charts, we were like, "Oh boy, this could be fun." And then it might be the best hockey game we've played since I've been here. So it was really fun to watch. And the parents afterwards, they were like beside excuse me, like beside themselves, just about how much fun it was to watch them play that way, and not just playing hard, but making smart plays, and
Mm.
moving without the puck, and to score against that team, and it alone is kind of a feat. But to make it so we had a chance to win, I thought was super exciting for what's coming, I think, for this group.
It's amazing looking at the international game, a few more inches either side, in terms of the width of the ice surface, but it completely transforms the game, the way the game is played. And I think
Yeah.
it's one of my favorite. The Olympic hockey is one of my favorite sports to watch, period, because the ice is wider and the game is just so much faster than it is here.
Yeah, and we really benefited just by having two players with international experience, right? We have Simone Bednarik, she plays for the Slovakian team, and Tilly Petherick plays for the Australian national team. And so, before we left, when we were in practice talking about different things, you could just see them, nodding along, and like, oh yeah, and talking to people in line. So, fortunate to, again, with good people sharing their experiences, it was pretty helpful for our players.
So, Coach, you have a senior goalie returning in Lexi Levy. She's in competition with freshman Mia DeVivo and also sophomore Hannah Skavnik. What do you expect from them? Is Lexi your starting goalie this year? And also, what about you have your leading goal scorer coming back in Mac Hull? She's a junior. Is she your top line on your top line right now?
Yeah, well, to touch on goalies first, we've been pretty spoiled, just with Lexi's consistency over the last 3 seasons now, 2 seasons, I guess, and then what we've seen from her so far this year. And she's one of those players where she'll show up every day, and she works in practice, and she competes. If she gets scored on in practice, somebody's going to hear about it, because she's usually pretty fiery, about those things. And then in games, just extremely consistent, makes the saves that she should make, and finds a way to make one or two that she shouldn't. And I think everybody plays pretty comfortable when she's in the net. And that's somebody, especially being, both her and Mia are St. Louis kids. They've kind of had that background where they've worked with the same goalie coach in the past. And they really work well together, as a tandem, the two of them. And so we would expect Lexi to see a bulk of the games. But when you really, we've got to give Mia an opportunity at some point to prove what she can do. Because next year, when we've got, somebody coming in to replace Lexi, uh, any question marks that you can have answered before you get to next season is certainly beneficial for us too. So, we're excited to see what she can do. And, as Mia gets more comfortable, it's fun to watch her game progress. And she's been lucky. The teams that she's been on the last couple of years have had some really talented players. But now that she's playing with, more, I won't say more talented players, as in like the one, because she played with a couple kids that are on the national team for the US. So those are pretty skilled shooters to have, picking on you every day in practice. But when you look at the bulk of the players that we have that can shoot the puck and make plays offensively. It's been fun to watch Mia's game develop. And, she's another one. She's a great kid, awesome energy, um, and, a really, really fun teammate to have. So that's been good. And then up front, you mentioned Mac, and one of the things with the way this team is, I'm not sure that we have a true first line. But on any given night, I think any of our, four lines can really be really productive offensively. Um, all the while, I think all four lines can be pretty responsible defensively as well. So we're hoping to be, tough to play against, tough to score against. And if we can find a way to get two or three in a game, then, I think that'll put us in a pretty good place to be successful.
So, Coach, senior defenseman Lauren Shell is the sister of Cal Shell, who was the goalie for the men's hockey team past couple of years. Has that happened in the past with Oswego, where a brother-sister tandem is on the men's and women's team?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think the Shells were the first. Um, I'm trying to think. There was almost one more this past year, but it stuck just with the Shells. So,
So, and she's a part of a senior heavy group on the blue line.
yep.
How valuable will their experience be for this upcoming season?
Yeah, it'll be huge, especially with like we have three freshman defenders that came in this year too, and all three of them are pretty talented and they're all pretty offensive. And so to have somebody, especially like Lauren, who's played, really significant minutes right from her freshman year on through her junior year, to have a mentor like that for our younger D, that's just going to be so beneficial. And I think for Lauren in particular, when she first got here and the player that she was then, and the maturity that she's gone through over the last 3 years, it's pretty remarkable. And that's I'd say probably one of the biggest changes that I see on our side of the game now versus working with the men's program, because we're getting players at a younger age. You really watch a lot of their, social maturity happen right before your eyes. And for Lauren, she's been a really special person to get to watch. Just how I don't say how she's kind of become the mother hen for our young defenders, especially, but the way she looks out for them, the way she communicates with them, um, and is patient in how she communicates with them. I've been very impressed, with her so far this season, and her play. I mean, her play has improved every year since she's been here. She's logged a ton of minutes for us, and I think to have a stabilizing person like that on the back end for us, I think hopefully, that'll help bring our young D along pretty quick.
Who are the captains for this year's team?
So four captains for this year: Sophia Kirkostas, who's a fifth year out of Selden, New York, played for BK Selects before she came here. Simone Bednarek, who played internationally over in Slovakia before coming here. Rachel Corbett will be a captain for us again this year. And then actually one of our sophomores, Helen Van Dam, a Rochester kid, whose mom actually played volleyball here, would have been slightly ahead of you guys. I think she graduated in like 97, 96, right around there. And she's an excellent communicator, really good player, but just her whole energy and attitude. And when you graduate as much as we do, trying to make sure that we have some leadership experience coming back for next year, and having somebody who's been in those meetings and all of that, hopefully it helps with just the continuity of leadership for our program.
So they're all just with an A on their jersey. No, no,
No,
no,
no.
no
So
true
yes,
captain.
Sophia Kirkostas will be our
Okay.
captain, and then the other three will be assistant captains for us.
One thing you touched on, Coach, was the level of maturity that when a first year player arrives on campus, their maturity level. So when we talk about the men's side, they're playing juniors, in Canada, and when even though they're a freshman, they're probably in their early 20s. What is the typical profile of a first year women's hockey player when they arrive on campus?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Well, I mean, the Shells are a good example of that, right? Because Cal went on and he played in about every league there's possible for a male junior hockey player to play in. And even though I think he's 2 years older than Lauren, he's a year behind her in university. So
Huh.
That was always a big joke that she liked to kind of throw at him too. But typically our players, they're entering college as true freshmen, so
Okay.
18 years old. We actually have a player on our roster right now who doesn't turn 18 for another 2 weeks.
Wow.
So, she's pretty young and learning all about, just the college experience, and then the volume of hockey that you play when you're at the college level. Um, but again, when we've got such a mature group, it's been nice to have them there to kind of guide her along, and our other young players too. Every once in a while, you end up with, a player or two that take a gap year after high school. And usually when they're doing that, they take some classes part-time. But for us, it's 1 year, that
Mm.
they do that, and then they're enrolling in college after that. So um, on the average, we're probably 2 to 3 years younger than the men's team per player. Although this year, this is probably as close as we'll ever be, to be in the same average age as their team, because we're, senior heavy and they're freshman heavy. So
Yeah.
it's probably pretty similar this year for the first time ever.
Coach, you played hockey in the early aughts at SUNY Brockport, competed against a lot of Oswego teams, coached by George Roll and then Ed Gozick. What do you remember about those times, playing those Lakers teams, and what was your path toward joining the men's team as an assistant back in 2010?
Yeah, well, they were always great memories, because when I first moved to New York, I lived in Fulton, so just down the road, and almost my entire family, they all live around here. So anytime you got to play Oswego, it was a homecoming of sorts. Although it was never too much fun, to play here, other than the 1 year. But yeah, 7 out of the 8 times we played them, I didn't have too much fun. But I always remembered, the team was extremely talented. They played hard, but they were never a team that you thought was disrespectful during the game. And that came down to coaching, right? You mentioned Ed and George. Like, it's hard to find two better people, to lead a program. And that was, one of the things that always stuck out to me about Oswego was just how miserable they were to play against, but not for the wrong reasons. And it was something like, as I started coaching, that was something I always wanted to make sure that we were instilling in our teams too, was you want to be a good team, but you don't want a team that people don't want to play for the wrong reasons. And, I really appreciated the way their players handled themselves. And so I think one of the reasons that when I first got here and started doing a lot of like alumni events and everything, that some of those guys and I just became good friends, because we remembered, I remember playing Rosie all the time, Lukacek, Stroda, all those guys that, Hurleman was one of the worst players to play against just because he played so hard. Timmy Thomas, I actually played with him, and my brother did as well, before we all went on to college. So, it was nice to have some local ties there and to know some of the people. But I think just the way that they played always made it enjoyable, if that makes any sense at all. And I think it's probably the reason that the alumni stuff was so much fun for me, and how quickly they made me feel welcome as an assistant coach when I first got here. That speaks volumes to who all those guys are, just as people.
You mentioned the 1 year. So 1 year, Mark, you came in with Brockport and you beat Oswego in Romney. And that must have been, and that's the moment you mentioned before the podcast started. You mentioned that's still something you talk about, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, it was. And the last time I was at an alumni event, I remember telling the story of the game-winning goal, and how it was a one-time slap shot, bar down, and everything else. I won't tell the real story about how the guy was driving the net, and I think there was a bouncing puck, and the rebound off of I think Tyson was in net, and it bounced off our player's back as he was sliding towards the net 'cause he fell down, and it just trickled over the line. Um, but I just remembered how loud it was. There was probably about a minute left. Donnie Patrick picked up the puck at the far blue line and started skating in. And I don't know if I've ever heard a building, even the whiteout games now, I'm not sure I've ever heard anything as loud as that. And, again, just the passion that the Oswego people usually bring to the rink. It, is, yeah, certainly thrilled that we got the win that night, but that the volume in the building, when he picked that puck up. Thank God he didn't actually score. But yeah, fortunately, I think our goalie made like 58 saves or something that night. But
That's
um,
crazy.
yeah, Brian Teft, he had a career night that night, and was, yeah, certainly a special memory for myself. And now being here, connected to the program, looking back at it from the other side too, it's again enjoyable to see the run that they went on after that too, and just how successful that team was here in Oswego.
The atmosphere in Romney will never compare to the campus center. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it's a few more people in the building. That's for sure.
I'm just curious, Coach, as a Brockport grad, what are your thoughts about your alma mater's decision to leave the SUNYAC conference for the Empire Eight, and where they'll begin play this season?
Yeah, it's interesting. And I'm not sure, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to it anymore. Unfortunately, neither of those programs have women's teams. So, as a complete outsider, looking at it, it is interesting. And I think when you look at it from the other sports, not just the hockey side of it, but when the other sports and the geography of it, and probably, for those teams saving quite a bit of travel time, saving quite a bit of missed class time, and then, the financial piece of, what bus costs anymore, and, the hotel costs and all that. So I
Yeah.
think the footprint of the leagues is certainly more interesting now. Just with Buffalo and Fredonia having to kind of leapfrog, all the Rochester area teams, both, Brockport, Geneseo, Nazareth, St. John Fisher, Hobart, like all of them. And so you almost want to get back to the whenever it was the Finger Lakes Hockey League, like it was back in the 70s and 80s, would almost make the most geographic sense. But yeah, with the way the landscape of college athletics is right now at all levels, it doesn't seem like geography matters a ton. Just kind of what different programs feel is the right fit for them, and
Mhm.
whether it's financial or otherwise, I think it's certainly interesting. But yeah, hopefully it goes well. And adding Hobart and Skidmore into the SUNYAC, it's not like the league got any easier. Um,
No.
it's so yeah, it's that's quite a conference. Not that it's ever had a light year, but no, that'll be pretty impressive to see how that league is.
So, like Kevin mentioned earlier, you spent 9 years behind the bench for the men's team, and then you became an associate head coach of the women's team, and then you took over the program. What was the transition like from the men's game to the women's game, and what was your mindset in deciding to make that change?
Yeah, that's a good question. In terms of like the largest factors and why to make the change, is just this community and wanting an opportunity. At that point, I'd been an assistant coach for 13 years, four at Brockport and then nine here in Oswego. And um, you feel at some point like you're ready to be the one making the final decision and wanting to have your own team and all those things, but also not wanting to move. I love it here. Like this is home for me. And both, my wife and I are well established here in the community. And have a very comfortable place here to be able to raise our family. And when an opportunity like this, came up, it was like, okay, here's an opportunity to get the dream job that I've always wanted in a community that I've always wanted to, kind of raise my family in. This is a no-brainer. And then I really got lucky with just the way Coach Dillon was able to kind of show me the ropes of
Mhm.
this side of the game, and especially from the recruiting side. Like the recruiting side is just completely different than what I was used to. Not so much in the context of recruiting, but so in like the landscape of it. Where do you have to go? What types of events are you going to? And in that, having her experience in that, her contacts in that, it gave me a huge head start with what we were doing, and then just to know the foundation of the program, how it was built under her leadership and what she valued. I was really lucky, and certainly in debt to her for the way that first year went when I came over, and how she was able to kind of help guide me along.
Well, I mean, Coach Dillon, Diane Dillon played at Cornell for one is part of one of the legendary, Cornell women's ice hockey teams a few decades ago. Played with Digit Murphy and several other players. So yeah, that's a tremendous. It must have been a tremendous experience to be able to pick her brain a little bit about the game of hockey.
Yeah, absolutely. And to get to work with someone who, she'd been around the game for so long, met so many different people, and seeing the women's game evolve, and really that was kind of the jumping off point to see what the like professional hockey for female athletes looks like right now in the women's hockey world anyway. And for her to basically be friends with all the people who are helping get that all started,
Yeah.
it's yeah, it was a huge luxury for me to get to have and to watch just the interaction with the players and um what the program meant to her. It was really, yeah, special, I guess is the only way I can describe it, to really make sure that I was, taking care of it. And even now when I talk to her, and I talk with her quite a bit still, she's like, how's my baby? How's my baby doing? And like, oh no, we're taking care of her. We're getting her going. And it's again nice to be able to keep people like that connected to the program.
And would you ever think about going back to the men's game, or are you now entrenched in the women's game? And
Yeah, I don't think so. I like what I'm doing, and I really enjoy not I mean I loved working with the men's team too. That was awesome. It was so much fun, and um but I've just found that I think for my coaching style, my personality, I like where I'm at. I'm happy with what I'm doing. I work with an awesome group of people. I've been able to, I don't know how, but been super lucky to attract some really good assistants here. Um, and they've all been tremendous in their own ways. And I think, yeah, I'm pretty happy with what I'm doing here.
Coach, are you seeing the women's hockey team pick up more fans as each season goes by?
I think so. I think, well, as each season goes by, I think as the team improves, and as we score, I think that's nobody wants to come and watch a 1-0 win. Even if you win, it's probably just like, oh, okay, when do we really get to cheer? They want to see some goals. And that's one thing that we've tried to emphasize. We've struggled with it at times, but I think as the team is more exciting to watch, more people will want to come and support the team. And we do a lot of community service stuff. We have a mentor program that we do, with the girls that play in Oswego minor hockey, and that helps get a lot of them, to our games as well. And I think as the players connect more in the community, just with different service events and stuff that we do, and again, when you recruit good people, and like I said, we've got some really, really good families involved in our program right now, and they don't just show up to events because we tell them to show up. They show up because they want to be there, and
Mm.
they wanted that experience in recruiting. And so now when, they go to different things, they don't just do what they're told to do. They do what they're told to do. And then, okay, what else can we do? How else can we help? I mean, we're just going to go talk to people. And the more of that they do, it's been amazing to watch, even 1, 2, 5, 10 new people show up to watch a game. And, once they get in the building, I think they generally find a pretty fun atmosphere for women's college hockey.
You mentioned, Coach, the success you've had with assistant coaches on the bench joining you. Joining your staff this year as an assistant coach is Grace Schnorr, who's arguably the greatest player in the history of the SUNY Cortland women's ice hockey program. She finished her career last year as Cortland's all-time leader in career points and goals and assists. What kind of an impact has she had on the team since coming aboard a few months ago?
Yeah, she's awesome, and she's fortunately, just with the situation that we were in this year, where we were kind of scrambling for an assistant coach late. When Danny took the assistant job at Vermont, and the pieces just kind of fell together quickly. I mean, she's from Camillus, so kind of a local tie there, and you mentioned like her stats and everything. If you were to talk to her though, you'd understand why she would have a huge impact on any program. And there's the stats piece and like her ability, but her ability to talk to people, connect with people, and build relationships very quickly was it's been awesome to work with her. And we joke because she was on staff I think 7 days, and then we were sitting in the JFK airport waiting to go to Italy. Like, okay,
Lucky
that's
her.
quite a signing bonus that you're getting here, Grace. But yeah, that's like my running dad joke that I'll probably have with her until the day I die. But it's been really, really fun. I did have a little bit of like nightmarish flashbacks today. We were on the ice for goalie session, and I passed the puck over to her and she scored a goal on Lexi, and I just froze for a minute like, oh no, no. I've seen that before. But no, I'm really fortunate, because from like the hockey understanding, the hockey IQ side, she's extremely talented. Um, but she's very passionate about what she does. And I think she's another one who's just very, very mature for what she wants to do, and wants to be a career coach. And I think when the players see somebody who's pretty close in age to them, it's very relatable, and they see the hard work and the passion that she puts into the team. Um, the way she treats people. Like, she's an excellent example for our players of, just being a professional in whatever career you have after college.
Was Lexi having flashbacks to previous years of
Well,
seeing
yeah,
her score on her?
they give it to each other pretty good about all that. And I'm not sure if Grace ever scored on Lexi. Um, but if she did, I'm sure that the two of them would have quite the debate about how it went in and everything else. They're pretty spirited when they have those conversations. It's pretty funny to listen to.
So speaking a little bit more of Grace, obviously you coached against her for most, if not all, of her career. Um, I'm assuming you're relieved that she's on your side now, and you don't have to worry about her scoring on you, except maybe in practice.
Yeah, it's very nice. Like I said today, watching her, actually score a goal on like an actual drill, not just like messing around. I'm like, oh boy, I am glad we don't have to see that anymore. Although, with Cortland and the way that they are now, it's okay. She graduates, and the next one just steps her into the same spot. And
Mm.
yeah, Coach Filigueira's there. He's done a really, really nice job building the program up, and I'm hoping that we're not too far behind, with all that stuff.
She could probably give you some dirt though on Cortland too, right? A little.
There's not a lot of dirt there. They run it pretty good, and no, they play the game the right way. They
Mhm.
play hard. The players are all on the same page, and he gets really talented players there, and gets them all playing connected. And as far as not sure how much has changed, systematically on the way they play or the way we play, the way Plattsburgh plays in the last however many years. It's all just been, pretty tight games. And I think this past year, um, we had the one weekend where we played them in their building and they beat us, and then we beat them here the next day. I think those are the only multi-goal differential games we've had against them since I started here. Other than that, everything's been a tie or a one goal game. So we've had some really, really tight battles with them. And, I think as both their program and our program continue to grow, it's nice having, someone that's competitive with you like that, that's not too far down the road.
Does the strategy change at all? Because I mean, you play these teams, frequently, obviously, and they don't really change a whole lot systematically. How do you go about attacking, each other's teams like that?
Yeah, I think, game to game, there's, little tweaks that you try to make, but I think when teams are as tight as they are and the game happens as fast as it does anymore, you gotta hope your players play to their potential when you get in the games, and you get the one save that you need at the right time, and you finish on a play at the right time when you need it. And not to sound like coach speak here and brush it off, but I think you just want to make sure that your team and your players play to their potential in those games. And if they do, you can kind of live with the result. And I think fortunately, we've had some really, really good games with them over the years. And um, I'm not even sure when the first one is this year, but I'm sure, that one will be no different.
And you coach against the team so often. you kind of know their strong points and their weak spots, so you can kind of try to attack those, those weak spots, whether it's, somewhere on the defense or, the goalies shoot up high on her or down low on her or something like that at this point.
Yeah, well, and especially right now because we play each other. This will be the final year of it, but we play each other 3 times. And so, you see, that team in the last 4 years, 12 times plus 3 playoff games, 15 times. That's you're pretty familiar with, your opponent at that point. There are people, right? We recruit pretty much the same kids.
Mm.
So it's not a lot of surprises especially when the two of us play each other. And um, I think, it's part of what makes that rivalry, that budding rivalry, pretty fun.
Coach, you had mentioned earlier you grew up in Fulton, New York, which is, for those that don't know, that are new to the podcast, it's just south of Oswego, about 10 miles or so. And you became friends with one of our previous podcast guests, SUNY Cortland football coach Kurt Fitzpatrick, who led his team to a national championship last season and is considered one of the most promising young football coaches in the country. What comes to mind when you think of your days growing up and attending high school with Kurt and your younger brother, Craig?
It's funny. I got chills here, and you say like one of the most up and coming football coaches in the country. That's so cool. Um, yeah, I mean, interesting. And even though like I graduated from Fulton High School, and I do consider myself a Fulton guy, but growing up, like I was out in Southern California. It's kind of where I would say from, but um, when I first moved out here, I was living with my uncle who, he coached high school soccer, coached high school baseball. And so he was Kurt and Craig's coach. And, I move in and all this, one of the first couple days, I didn't really know anybody other than my brother, when I first moved out here, because he had moved out here a couple years prior to I did. Um, but I can hear people throwing a football around in the backyard. And I walk out in the backyard, and their house is just around the corner, but shares a backyard with my uncle's. And so in the 3 years that I was in Fulton, I was able to get to know Kurt and Craig really well, and their family really well. Awesome people, and it's not very surprising, the success that both of them have had. Craig still he lives locally here and works here right in Oswego, and to know the careers that both of them are having, it's not a huge surprise to me because they're both really into whatever they were doing. They were both really talented athletes, and just good guys. So it's very cool. Yeah, probably the only time I've ever really cheered for Cortland with any type of vigor was the playoff games there with Kurt's run there. That was pretty awesome.
That's same for us. We were when that happened, we
Yeah.
were joking around like we were actually cheering for Cortland, and I was like, I don't think I've ever cheered for Cortland in anything. I mean, we used to kind of be their big brother in hockey for a long time until the last couple of years they've gotten a lot better. But
Yeah.
we've never. I don't think I've ever cheered for Cortland in any sport until watching that football game.
Well, I live a mile from campus, so I have an excuse, I guess, to root for SUNY Cortland. I gotta say about Bolton, is Chubby's not one of the most underrated places for wings in Central New York?
Yeah, and it's funny you say it's underrated. Like that's a Showtime place for me because the wings there, I mean, for in Fulton, that's the place to go. Yeah, it's excellent. Anybody who's driving through right on 48, got to stop and get some wings there. Um, I'm pretty confident my father-in-law is probably sitting there having wings right now. But no, it's yeah, great place. There's a couple other really good hot spots that have opened up there in town actually too. So the next time you come up, you'll have to stop and check a bunch of them out.
When I learned about Chubby's when I was in at Oswego in the late 90s, they had nickel wing night every Friday. So like we were like booked it to Chubby's as soon as we could. And you slapped out $1, you get 20 wings. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Do they still have
No.
nickel wing night?
No, it's $5.
Yeah, $5 wing night. Yeah.
That's what it is.
$5 wing night. How many wings do you get?
2.
No, but bottom line, phenomenal wings at Chubby's. I'll put them up against anyone in this neck of the woods.
What about Buffalo's wings? We put them up against Buffalo's wings.
Wow. Now we're gonna start an
I
argument
mean,
here, I think.
I
Just saying.
can't. I'm saying Central New York. That's what I'm saying. Well,
All right.
not get too. Let's Buffalo's their own thing. Central New York's their own thing. Let's leave everyone be. Okay. But yeah, I did live in Fulton actually for a couple of years, and it was still when the Nestle plant was still open. So
Oh,
yeah, after it
wow.
rained, you could smell the chocolate all throughout the
Oh,
whole.
So good.
It was so good. And if you ever ate a chunky bar or a crunch bar, probably came from Fulton. So
yeah, the smell of chocolate around the town every time it rains. It's funny.
oh,
You tell that now and people think that it's a myth, but
Yeah.
it's no, now it's an absolute that would happen every time. So pretty funny.
before we started recording, Mark, you mentioned that attending an Oswego, SUNY Oswego men's ice hockey game when you were living in Fulton when you were still in high school. What was that experience like for you?
It was cold first. I remember the walk from the parking lot down,
Sounds about right.
and yeah, it was
Yeah.
probably it was like late November, early December. I
Yeah.
want to probably in I don't even remember the year, but 99, 2000-ish, somewhere right around there. And yeah, this Plattsburgh Oswego game, and
Oh,
Mm.
first time I'd
nice.
ever really seen as a as a high school student, right, a college hockey game when I was really young, and we were traveling around playing youth hockey tournaments. I remember seeing an Air Force game, when we were playing at a tournament in Denver, a Colorado College game, Denver game, but I didn't know what D3 hockey was. And so then I go and watch a Oswego Plattsburgh game at Romney. That's quite an introduction to college hockey.
Mhm.
That's
And
a game right there.
I was always, passionate about hockey, excited about hockey. But when I first moved out here, to Fulton and, was exposed to being able to play local hockey and like with friends, that totally, totally changed my outlook on what I wanted to do with hockey. And then going to that Plattsburgh Oswego game, like that really, yeah, that's one of those, like I'm getting chills thinking about it right now. And, just how cool it was just in that environment. And yeah, certainly memories that I'll never forget.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and really best of luck this season.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys very much for having me on. I appreciate it. And no, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, hopefully we can have you back for a playoff preview maybe.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And that was the head coach of the SUNY Oswego women's ice hockey team, Mark Digby, and that was a lot of fun catching up with Coach. And he's had a pretty good run of success. He's entering his
Yeah.
fourth year now as head coach, and they've made the playoffs pretty consistently
Mhm.
in his time. So it's shaping up to be another solid year.
Yeah, I believe I was looking at the last few years. They average around like 16-ish wins a year, which, is pretty good. They've been getting into playoffs. I didn't see any losing seasons, so that's always a
No.
plus. So it
Yeah.
seems like they have good good players coming in each year.
Sure. I mean, and like he's only been there 4 years. It takes some time to build program up, right?
Mhm.
So, the longer you're in that position, probably the stronger your teams get and the better you recruit, and they'll get there. I have no doubt.
Yeah.
And
It sounds like he wants to be there for a while too.
Yep.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed, because I called, Cornell women's ice hockey for a few years, and comparing the women's game to the men's game, there's no checking in typically or fighting in
Right.
women's hockey. So check in the box for right there for women's hockey right there, right? Just that alone.
Right.
Because it's slow, the fighting and the chippiness, it just kind of drags the game down sometimes. But anyway, without the checking, without the physicality that could sometimes paper over some mistakes, you're relying strictly on fundamentals in the women's game.
Yeah.
So the team that executes better, the passes are sharper, the goaltending is crisper. That's the team that's gonna tends to come out on top. So I think really it's a lot of fun watching the women's game because of that reliance on really the fundamentals of hockey.
Right. But they still keep that physicality in there, because
Sure.
even though you can't just, line someone up and right against the
Mhm.
boards, right? You can still hit somebody, without, as long as you're not going out of your way to hit them, right?
Sure.
You're going after the puck, you hit someone, knock them over, I guess it's generally like a, referee's decision if you're really trying to check the person or not. But like, obviously there's still some physicality to it as well. So it's not purely finesse the whole time.
No, it's like soccer in that you can body someone off the puck, and take the puck away. Absolutely. Stand in the passing lanes, block shots. There's certainly plenty of physical elements of women's hockey. Yeah.
Yep.
Speaking of soccer, I refereed in hail yesterday. Okay.
Oh,
Welcome to Central New York weather.
yeah.
I'm glad I'm down here.
You'll need the AC in a couple of days.
My wife was yelling at me this morning to turn on the heat. I was like, no. Crazy?
Yeah, overnight up here, it gets chilly, man.
I know. It was like in the low 40s here this morning, and she's like, it was like 60 degrees in my house.
You probably need to turn the heat on.
I was like, no.
Are you
It's only October 16th.
Are you a thermostat hog? You're like, no, it's mine. Don't touch it.
No, but
Okay, no.
I mean, we have fights over all the time over it. But like, I'm like, it's October 16th. There's no heat yet. You kidding me? Come on. It's crazy talk.
Some nights. I mean, there's a frost warning up here.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Gotta
was
have it on.
upper 30s overnight in this area. All right. I think that'll do it for this edition of the Throwing Bagels podcast. Thank you so much to Coach Mark Digby for joining us. You can check us out online, throwingbagels.com, email address, throwingbagelspodcast@gmail.com. And that concludes your week of hockey podcasts. I hope you enjoyed listening. And please like and subscribe on YouTube, right, guys?
Absolutely.
Yes, definitely.
You should do that. You should do that.
Some cool clips out there.
There are, including the longest joke ever told by Chris Douglas.
55 million.
Let's not go back into it again.
All right.
Get out of here.
So enjoy it. Keep in touch. We'll see you next time. Jason, Chris, au revoir.
Bye-bye. Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.
Metropolitans.